Okay, I haven't done a bit of a hand review in a little bit, so let's do one now. Two losing sessions, pretty big one today, almost two buy-ins. One of them pitched off with ace king suited against queens, and an all-in pre, and then a couple of edgy spots. I had an aces hand that I ended up folding on our turn raise that had a lot of flush draws. That of course the solver just about vomited from. Hated that one. Huge amount of EV loss. My thinking in game was that I just didn't put that particular player on enough check raises with bluffs, but I think when we look at it, we'll see. I would think I was probably mistaken. I have enough data on that person to be able to make a proper decision, but just couldn't pull myself together enough. Certainly had tons of bluffs, but then I had also. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get there. So, really going with any intentions today, so maybe that also didn't help. Not feeling so good. Anyways, excuses. So let's just take a look at some of these hands over the course of 2 days, and we will see what we have. So we open raise, not open, we re-raise from the small blind with the jacks. Get called. Not a great board for the open raising or the three betting range. We are, so we check out of position. We get a bet of a very small bet. Now I decided to go for a raise here, but in retrospect, I think it was probably a bad play. We got all the 8-7s, small blind 8-7. Yep, I would probably raise it. I would raise 7s, 8s. I mean, we're sharing the nuts, and we're sharing the draws. Since both of us have nut advantage, then there isn't a lot of reason to repolar, or not to repolar, but to even a raise, I think. The main reason I chose in game was protection for the jacks against bigger cards, over cards, ace king, ace queen. They just called our 3-bet, and we have about 200 hands. Very passive, so no 3-bets, no 4-bets for 200 hands. I guess in the end, I'm really tossed up between these two things, whether we want to put in a raise here or not. So we'll probably go to the solver to see how many raises are actually useful there. We do put in a pretty hefty raise, and they call. So they're very strong. They're either centered around this with two pair or straight draw, flush draw, and maybe 10s, 9s, possibly queens. I'm not naming the one they actually had because it's ridiculous. But ace comes, kills their action. They bet again. Price is so cheap, we're calling, even though 9 times out of 10 we're dead. We call, we check, they check back. What do they got? Kings. Kings, kings, kings. So, note on this guy. Yeah, it calls 3-bets from position with kings. So, calls 3-bets out of position with kings. Okay, we saw it before. Calls with kings. It's one of those guys. I'm going to protect my kings by not putting too much money in and see how it hits the flop. Anyway, let's go to a solver and get a little bit of a sense of how good this might be. 26th to 27th, that's right. And then jacks. So it's this one. So we check. It's fine, we could lead. And see bet here, and we also have lots of raises, and actually more raises EV wise than calls, so good move on the flop. We check the ace, and solver will have a mix of checks and bets here, which is somewhat surprising-ish, question mark. I guess the ace is technically good for both hands, so our range hasn't necessarily diminished, but a small bet probably doesn't hurt the world. When we face that small bet, we just call, and that's all good. There's no all in. It's so funny with the way it uses a percentage, but the EV difference is so massive. We check, and that gets checked, and that's that. So, in the end, fine play. Okay, good call on the raise, and I think flop. Good call on raise instead of call as nuts are shared. So we have some, and Jack wants some protection versus 4 cards. And then turn, there is a lead here. Some good portion of the time, I guess, because we share aces in both ranges, but it's small. And let's just see what the general strategy on the turn is there. And turn here. Yeah, so lots of small bets. We can keep going. We're mixing the jacks, so totally fine. We can check with the jacks as well. I wish this was not so small for some reason. There we go. Slightly better. Yeah, fuck, that sucks. It's because of this big graph. For whatever reason, the graph gets really big on here. And then 18% strategy. I don't know why it's displaying like this now. Must be some sort of... Anyway, so we can see where we can mix some of these jacks. That's Jack 10 jacks. Some of them can bet, some of them can check. Our particular jack, diamonds, hearts and diamonds are actually a bet. So, but generally that range has a lot of aces to support a lot of bets, and they likely have a lot of nutted hands. The range is here, right? Less aces, but a bunch of these really strong hands that are going to be calling. Small blind is behind on the value, but ahead in sort of the bottom half of the equity distribution, and then a tiny bit of net advantage, even though we got the tippy top of it with the aces. All right. Otherwise, fine. Repress called whiffy flop, but pretty disconnected, so I think I can put a bet in here. Probably want to size a little bit bigger though, but probably fine. A little small bet there. And then we pick up a flush draw. Let's give it a check because the 4 doesn't do anything for either range. Probably could have continued betting actually. Now that I look at this, I'd say maybe this is where we should polarize and continue going. They check it, and 6 comes in the river, so now we're showdown bound. We get a bet though, and we fold for, I don't know, 19%. It's probably in the end a fine fold. Not sure what is held, maybe 8s? Probably 8s. Some sort of 8, I would imagine. Pretty tight little player there. So ace 8. 8, 9. A jack. Jack will probably go bigger size. Let's see what this. 6. Again, not trying to answer questions for the world, just trying to understand positions a little bit better. So this is all fine. Our bet is yes, so we did want to go a bit bigger. So instinct on review is right. Go bigger on the flop bet. Review, thought bigger flop bet, and solver confirms. And then this is where, yeah, again, keep going. B75, as per in review, thought should continue turn after picking up flush draw and solver confirmed. So we're not getting, didn't get our play in game in line with pretty well anything. And then in review, thought we owed a call here, and solver agrees. So everything we did was bad. This is an inaccuracy. Let's just look at that river, how close to the final spot there. For some reason we're getting here with kind of no combos, but calling it with ace highs. So these sixes are calling all the time. Ace highs, hey? Even fours, even pairs of twos. The price is so small, probably. Price is so good. We have a lot of potential equity versus what though? What? This is probably where this thing falls apart. Yeah, there just isn't any bets. So the solver really isn't going to know how to deal with this. So there just isn't any small bets like that. It's much, much bigger. Let's say they bet properly. Say the worst case scenario would be a 6. And then now we can, oh no, we still call some of those. Whatever third pairs are there, we're calling. Still even some ace highs. So yeah, bits and pieces. Bits and pieces. 8s, 9-8, 10-9. And then some overcards, a little bit of these. King 10, King 9. Got shoddy sort of things. War sets. What's in those trash, right? King 9, King 10, King Jack, Queen 10, 10, 9. So, do they bet those combos for that size? If not, then we can fold. If they do, then we should be calling, and we should just be calling for the smaller size anyways. Versus King 10, 10, 9, Queen 10, etc. But do they bet those for the size? Probably. Okay. Anyway, the bigger issue is the turn. We missed a bet there. That's a perfect. We've already bet the flop, got called. We absolutely can bet this turn. We need to bet with lots of bluffs, and that was one of them. So do better. So here's the aces hand. We're small blind versus big blind. We know the solver does not want folding ever with anything. We bet. They call. I think the lead here is somewhat debatable, but is okay. don't think it's terrible. We certainly could have checked. Think about the hands that we have would be sets. We have 4-3. We do not have 8-3. They probably don't either. We don't have 8-4. They probably don't either. They have some 4-3. They probably have less sets because they should be raising some of those, at least the 8s. Maybe they call with 4s and 3s. They have lots of flush draws. They have a lot of different hands here. And now that I'm actually walking through this, they have a lot of overcards as well. Overcard flush cards, overcard like ace 10, maybe king 10, jack 10, queen 10, hearts. And this is where the mistake was made because then they raise and I just tanked and folded. So part of the reason was even though we block one of the draws, there's still half the deck basically that comes back. And this was the issue, right? Like already we've got, so I bet half pot on a 10. I think it's fine. Maybe that could be a checkable check. Nice protected aces. Throw the aces into a checking range there. The 10 probably isn't necessarily great for us. 10-8's definitely theirs. 10-8's mine too. I mean, I open very wide and I'm 3-betting always from the small blind. I don't have a flatting range. So, but when they raise, we call it off, and that's 25, 50, 64. So there they got one pot bet left. One pot size bet left. So either a diamond or a heart, we hate our life if it comes. Any 7 we hate. Any 2 we hate. Any 10 or 8 we hate. A 4 or a 3. Like there's just so many bad cards for us that I just thought like and if we check any number of those and they, even an ace heart we don't like, especially an ace heart, so we kind of have one out. Anyway, the solver hates it. Ranges are so wide. Let's just look at it and see if we can figure out anything useful here. I knew in game that as I folded, it was going to be my most punished hand in this session. Everything else is going to be fine, right? We raise. It actually doesn't love the size of the turn bet, and it also doesn't love the size of the flop bet. I went big because so these are the mistakes I made. The pot got that big because of the sizing I made. Granted, it's both of those are mistakes, right? So they're already, I guess, they're attacking a depolarizing bet, or is that how you would call it? I polarized on the flop and then pulled it back on the turn. So we already are kind of not doing very well here using this size. Solver really likes the B33, right? And then B50. There's no B75. It's really B33 and B50 because we have so many bets. And then when they raise, what are they raising with? Lots of sets, 2 pairs, and a bunch of top pairs. So that would be the only thing, is if they have it in them to raise top pairs, and if they have it in them to be raising some of the draws, although the solver's not using any draws because we were kind of betting large enough to allow for that. Yeah. So, and we got to call all the way down to second pair. Top pair, under pair, top pair, nines even, over pairs. Aces with the no, yeah, the ones that don't block any draws are shoving. I don't know, man. So this one, we'll probably call it an inaccuracy. Known. Knew that folding here was overly tight and solver would want calls. Made a lot of excuses as to why I folded. Mostly telling myself they were either overvalued or on a draw that half the time comes in, and when they at pot we have to call. So like, so say we call here, call, and then let's say say a 6, and then they check and they go all in. We call with our aces. Yeah, some of them. Anything that is not revolving around the flush. So the combo we have is calling. Oh, I have lost my. Why has this happened? It's annoying. I can't get all my can't get all my oh, is it maybe the equity thing? Yeah, there we go. That's what it is. Strategy plus equity. There. So yeah, the big bluff catchy with none of the one blocking flush draw. So the hope would be that that front door is the one that's bluffing. Anyway, and then probably if that didn't come in, but instead this one came in, it would be vice versa, right? Oh no, they all fold. Okay. So if a diamond came, we actually would fold all our aces, even to a pot size bet. So that's good to know. They raise, they could be raising the picked up draw, I guess, on the turn. Anyway, the main problem with the hand is sizing. I went big polar on flop because of low cards and mostly checking. And then turn B50 was probably yeah, we kind of just want to polarize there. Just go for it. Looks like. Yeah, no, there's some of them. Our particular combo, it's all pretty close. So we could sort of pick any bet size we want on the turn. But the main one is, so we'll say the turn bet size is fine, but just stick to B33 and B50 max on pretty well everything. Everything on flop, until I learn different, I guess. It's my heuristic. It's just such a wide range that wants to put bets in that has lots of reasons to bet. And these guys have a lot of folds, so I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's an exploitive fold. I don't know. Got almost 900 hands on this guy. Anything, he's got capability to 3-bet properly. His fold to 3-bets look pretty good. 4-betting looks pretty good. Fold to 4-bets look pretty good. So pre-flop he's looking not bad. C-betting flop. Turn. Maybe C-bet's a little high, but not too bad. Went to showdown. 28, and he's winning. Yeah, 1-1 saw the flop. 1-1. A bunch of flop bet stuff. Three bets look okay versus a small blind. I don't know. I just don't know. One money when went to showdown is pretty high, so somewhat overvalued. Non-small wins. One win saw the flop. It's 49. RCE. I don't know what that means. Is there anything we can find on the turn? Check raise, nothing. Group turn. Yeah, I don't really have enough stats by the turn. So I guess because we don't really have the answer, we should be reverting to solver land, and solver just has a pure call here. So we should have just called and seen what happened on the river. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Here's an ace high hand. 2 pair. So we, much of the time we're going to check these, but then call them down, which is what we did here. And I think it's probably fine. We just faced ace 9. There's nothing really to do. I guess the only question would be, do we have a raise here? Now we have top pair plus a draw. And we could, in theory, fold out some better aces. So why don't we check on that one and see. A6 was it? Here. Fine. Not really any raises. A tiny, tiny, tiny bit of raising. 5%. No biggie. All right. I think that hand is fine. And review. A6 again. And jacks. Okay, so queen 10 suited. We'll open. Get a call from the big blind. Double O board if we bet. No reason we have to, but we certainly will. For a small size into a polar range, this smashes their range. We don't have any redraws, so anything we do is going to be one and done, I think. This time I decided to do nothing because I didn't really have anything on the board to make me happy. check again, and then check the last time. I think this is a mandatory bet now. There's no real showdown with Queen 10, I don't think. And they've shown zero interest in this. Flushes come in, houses. I mean, there's a billion things that this cheap little range, like whatever, their stack is a disaster. So I think a pot size bet here would be totally in line. I feel like world is incredibly in our favor. And if we get raised, who cares, right? Like just walk away. It's so check lines. I don't think there's any world, especially with a non-ace or non-king hand, that we should be seeing the showdown. We're just too weak. Too weak. We got lots of kings that'll fold, lots of aces that'll fold, tons of hands will fold. So yeah, see a bet here. I'm gonna even call it an inaccuracy. So turn and river are great betting opportunities. World fave is high, so this combo having little to no showdown value wants to capitalize on the available fold equity, which is high. B100 or B150. I can say that happily because the pot's so small. And we lose to sixes. So sixes, who knows, sixes would have called. Maybe they would have. Maybe not to a pot size bet though. But then they would be like, what the heck do you have? And call. So I think the turn probably would be the place to do it when the flush comes in. We would be wrapping some sort of smally flushy kind of thing. Then if we get called, we can let it go at this point. Maybe turn we'd rather have another heart, probably with a lot of bluffs with hearts, but that's one of those things where the world just gets better and better because the dude's not betting. So I think we use it opportunity to just grab a few chips. Those are the things we're always looking for to try and get a little bit more money in the world. Open fives, get called by whatever this is. Looks like the small blind. 10-2. I think we should bet here. We don't. Today, I think this is the story that's happening is there's a lot of this. Now, we're more showdown-ish. More showdown. And we do win this pot. But I think, again, it's a similar spot, right? Like, just put some bets in when things are so favorable. They haven't bet anything. They got nothing. They have no twos. They have no tens. They have maybe a six. They might have an eight on the very end. They probably bet it. They probably bet something if they have anything on this board. So let's just take advantage of these spots. And I think we can certainly let the fives go a little bit because it's a little bit higher up in our distribution as opposed to the queen 10, which had nothing on that previous hand. But I think we want to just start getting ourselves into a little bit more routine of attacking those spots where people very apt range in OP. So here too, we should be thinking of getting a bet in on river. Fives is probably okay not to bet, but be aware of these spots. Checking ranges, especially 3 times, are very, very weak. So our garbage wants to eat them for dinner. Let's just see what this one, whether fives would actually put a bet in there. Pretty sure the fives would on the other one, but yeah, no, there's no betting here. So we're fine there. Queen 10 though. Guarantee you that river has a bet. Is this one, right? Yeah. So yeah. Bet, motherfucker. I mean, the EV of it is not much different, but and the turn as well. Bet. Come on, bet. Put a small little bet in there. You can do it. You can do it. Put a big bet in there. 170%. Big old bet. Just take the pot. Don't be such a big baby. Ace 8. Defend. Bad board for us. We check it through. Hope for something. Kind of not what we're hoping for. So now we're into showdown mode. Check it through. And now when a king comes, I put in my mind that, hey, we could probably get some value from that king. And they just fold. So I think that in this particular case, again, we were checked, and they didn't do anything. So we now kind of have some incentive to try and get paid off with a top pair. Granted, there's a bluff flush on board and a straight on board, but one would think that one would have heard from them should that have been the case, especially with their 27 big blind stack. So I think this is a good play and a spot where we did recognize. See, but again, we're not recognizing it when we're weak. We are somewhat recognizing it when we're kind of thin value strong with those fives, and now we're thin value with an ace, top pair. Easier to pull the trigger on that. Open small blind queen, ace queen. Again, real nasty little. But having said that, it's small blind versus big blind, so we have all kinds of cards that coordinate with this. We certainly could put a bet in. I gotta keep that in mind, even though I'm out of position. We're not in the field. Ranges are really wide. Certainly are allowed to put one more bet in here. When the board pairs and they check, then a jack comes. Here's a bluffing opportunity. We do have ace queen, so we might have some showdown value. I think if we did bet, we would be targeting a 10x, 9x, something like that. Unlikely that the 7 checks. Unlikely the straight checks. The turn. We bet. They bet. We called. So we could have ace jack. We could have king jack, queen jack. We could have jack 10, jack 9, jack 7. Is there enough 10s and 9s to target to make a bet here worthwhile, or are we better to just show down and hope that the flush draw missed, which is basically all that we would be trying to go for? I don't know. I decide to bet, and we get a fold. So, I just don't know whether that's a good play or not. Solver doesn't like it. Oh, I just didn't like the size, but I like the bet. I like the bet quite a lot. So we missized it. We are out of position and kind of asking for it on a somewhat polar board facing a polar range, because technically they are the last aggressors. So in theory, they potentially have 9-7, 10-7, 7 something, Jack 7, like a lot of stuff that we don't have that we likely would have maybe raised on the flop, I guess. But at least we actually got a bet in there, which I think was good. Let's just see this river here. Kind of work our range is doing at this point. Are we polarizing? Obviously not. Yeah, no, it's mostly small bets. So that's where we want to allow ourselves to bet a lot more because of the check. So we don't need to polarize, and that's an out of position trend downwards kind of idea. So this is okay. Good idea, bad size, trend downwards versus a polar range. Even though they kind of cap themselves pole wise, so they polarize themselves by raising our flop bet and then cap themselves on the 7 turn. It's interesting. All 7x on river is using small size, which allows. So I want to look at something. It's going to make this fallacy of size determines the strategy, but no, our range advantage is significant. Let's see here. Oh, we checked. It wasn't a raise. They just bet once. So our ranges are sliced through. Theirs is slightly stronger when we call. Turn comes, which gives us a significant advantage. We actually have 25% leads because we had so many 7s that we called with. So we could easily have put a bet in there on the turn, and then our range is just dominating, like so strong versus theirs. So that's the issue here. Oops. We actually love the 7. Love the 7. There is no polar range. Polar range, really. Like, looks very shared, I think. Yeah, on the river, ours is the polar range. On the flop, it's just razor thin. We're slightly ahead overall, slightly better range. So we have bets here, but lots of checks too. It's fine. They actually should be polarizing a little bit more, but this size is probably okay. And then a slight polar advantage you can see here. Just here. Slightly more value up in here. And then when we call, that caps us, knocks a lot of our top value out because we would be raising, and gives them an advantage. But then that turn 7 really helped for them. Either way. So our range actually as 25% leads on the 7. Let's really focus down on those second card pairs on turns. Great for the caller, pre-flop caller. I decided to just call because they're suited. I would maybe raise if they weren't, or fold. Hit nothing. Gut shot, so we call the gut shot. And then here's an interesting spot. So flush comes in and it board pairs, and it's a low card. So all three of those things, I think, flush coming in theory, they should be betting enough flushes that that's beneficial to them. But the pair potentially is better for us, and the low card pair is even better. So I'm going to say we have a net advantage, which gives us the opportunity to raise, especially to a 1/3 bet pot. So we do put it in and they fold. So that feels like we executed that quite well. And let's just see, even though it's king, jack, it's not one of these things where we need to be, I think the world favorability for us is so high. That doesn't actually have any, just fold. So maybe we're not quite as high as I think. Let's see. It's a small blind calling range, sort of. Don't love, but turn 3, we check. Now let's see here. They actually have all the polarization. What 3s do we have that they don't have? That's the thing. Hey, we have ace 3, and we have quad 3s, but they have just as many of those. There's nothing else. So I'm overestimating the value of the small cards from a small blind calling range. Big blind would have a lot more. They would have a bunch of these cards in here, which I think then allows us to say we got more of the polar range. So this is probably a mistake. So review inaccuracy. Turn in-game thought. This card was much better for our range than theirs, but upon reflection, not sure I can name anything more than ace 3 as being a holding we have, but they don't. If in big blind, then we have many more 3x. And this would make more sense. Let's check. Go here. So what they raise, small blind, fold, big blind call, 9 queen 3. Check. Bet small. Yeah, bet small. Put that. All. And then the 3. Blind check. Bet small. And we have more raises. Still not a ton though. Let's see this range now. Well, UTG is still the polar range. So we really don't have a lot of polarization we can do here. Got all of these things we don't have as many flushes? Question mark. That's why. Are we raising our flushes? Check that all. Some, not a ton though. Again, they're the polar range, so we don't have a lot of raises. Some, a bunch of the aces are raising. Those are all raising. So, but ultimately, they are still so much stronger value-wise than we are, even in the big blind. So this theory is not holding up. Mistaking the world fave here. So need to think that out just a little more clearly. Where are we? King Jack. Okay, we got a couple more hands. So we raise here, get called, kind of just hit nothing. 8 comes, again hit nothing. Again, we now can put a bet in, cap, 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 cap. Pretty certain we'll see the same thing we've seen on some other spots. We're gonna have a lot of bets here. And that would be this one. Yeah, so we have a lot of bets. We don't have any checks there, and we have no checks there. We have 0 bets there. So even though we have 0.1% bets, we have 0.0% bets. So, and river, another example of where our range is so much stronger. Like the flop, I think, is fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's actually the highest EV play other than a B50. Same. Yeah, so we're indifferent to checks or bets. There's lots of bets around, but there's also lots of checks. So much stronger on both turn and river. And we have to put bets in. Put bets in here. Have to. They're not betting is a huge tell that they don't have anything. It's really not rocket science. I mean, I know I'm going to see a bunch of bets. A bunch of bets on the river. Yeah. So polar the fuck, man. Polar the fuck. Polar the fuck here too. Polar the fuck. King queen. Polar it. Go bananas. Bet, bet, bet. Bet, 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 bet. They checked twice. Gotta get better at this stuff. This is like a huge part of where I'm missing out on a ton of really good value. We flop a gut shot on an otherwise innocuous board. Certainly could put a bet in there, but I'm totally okay with the check. We hit the gut shot. Deep polar. Solver wants a raise. I decide I'm just going to call because it's a polar bet. They check, and now we should not bet because the board just paired and flushed. So, you know, the usual shit doesn't really go that well when it's gone that well. But I know for sure the solver wants a bet here. There. Now, raise. Raise, dumbass. We got the nuts. Raise and protect. Even though they're polar, we still have raises with. So use them, especially when we need protection from exactly what came on the river. Does not take much. River, it's not a river issue, that was a turn issue. And inaccuracy. Almost blunder. That's almost a blunder. 5-6. Checked it. I know I've been saying I should be raising when anything playable and people limp to me. So we hit a straight. We raise them. We continue to have a straight. They call a polar bet, which is right. And now we put them all in and they fold. That hand, at the very least, is okay. Thank God we can't look at the solver because it was limped pre-flop. So that was that session. 27th, you can see the worst hands were these aces hands we already looked at, and that 9-8 hand. We missed our turn raise. Everything else is kind of in line. A couple of I guess I folded pre-flop to a raise that I should be calling with king queen on the button versus a hijack 3-bet. And here that was the bet we missed on the river, I think. Is that right? Check, 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 check. Yeah. So a couple of those. And this one just some issues somewhere. Fold, raise, yeah, ace 10. Should not be flatting ace 10. Off. Use it to raise or fold. So anyway, not the worst session. A bunch of little mistakes, compounded with one stack drop and a bad play with aces, and that gets us almost 2 buy-ins down. So let's hope that we pick it up again tomorrow, and we probably won't play tomorrow, actually, maybe Saturday, we'll see. That's it.